A young college student assaulted by a ruthless predator.
They arrived to a very graphic scene, very kind of bloody scene.
I believe what struck me the most is the extent that I believe that she was beaten. She was beaten to a pulp.
You have to have a lot of demons to want to do that to another person.
The brutality of the crime paralyzed a community with fear.
A lot of young women was put on alert at that time to watch their surroundings.
Detectives feared the only way he could be caught was if he attacked again.
So it is literally trying to find a needle in a haystack in a field of haystacks.
The investigation would slowly uncover a sinister truth.
I believe our killer was already watching Terri.
Hi, I'm Nancy O'Dell. Today's Crime Exposé takes us to an apartment complex just steps away from the University of Texas at Arlington. It was here that a young college co-ed was found badly beaten and bludgeoned to death. Detectives were baffled by the troubling details of Terri McAdams' grisly murder, and the entire community lived in fear that until the dangerous predator was caught, no young woman in the area would be safe. It was early afternoon on Valentine's Day when a terrified maintenance worker from a nearby apartment complex called police.
The call came in by a maintenance worker who located a white female identified as Terri McAdams. She was found beaten, brutally beaten with, it appeared to be a hammer from head to toe.
When detectives entered the bedroom where 22-year-old Terri McAdams was found, they were shocked by the gruesome scene.
What stood out the most was the trauma done to her head with multiple parts of her skull was fractured. I've never seen anything like it.
And just the amount of willful disregard for human life, it's heartbreaking.
It was clear a violent struggle had taken place.
Several areas of the apartment, in the living room, in the kitchen, appeared to be ransacked, and I believe that was basically him torturing and beating her, and it led to the bedroom.
Signs of a break-in were found on the back sliding glass door.
Did appear to be a forced entry based on the locking mechanism of that door.
Police quickly zeroed in on another clue.
Our officers and detectives located a size 10-11 fresh footprint right outside the patio door.
A used cigarette butt was discovered in the bedroom.
Cigarette butt was located right next to Terri. It appeared that our suspect, once he got done smoking, kind of laid it on the bed sheet of the bed next to some ashes.
The callousness of the crime was shocking and showed police the attacker had spent a lot of time inside the apartment.
That she endured pain for a very long time, and I even believe that after her death, our suspect continued to beat her, to torture her.
Detectives learned Terri had a fiancé, and even though she had her own place in the complex, the murder had happened inside his apartment. And you say the killer actually took his time inside the apartment. So was anything stolen?
The only thing that they noticed that was missing in the apartment was Terri's engagement ring from her fiancé. There was nothing else that appeared to be stolen in the apartment.
Which made Terri's boyfriend become suspect number one.
Based on this being his apartment, based on that a ring was stolen that he gave her, and there was nothing else stolen in the apartment. That if it was one person wanted to burglarize, would have took more stuff, probably would have, taken her identity or her wallet.
You don't take that amount of time to murder somebody unless you know that nobody else is going to be expected to interrupt you. For somebody to beat another human being, that profusely, that takes a lot of will and a lot of want to do so. There's some anger there.
Terri McAdams had been found brutally attacked inside her fiancé's apartment. The medical examiner's report brought Terri's last moments alive more clearly into focus.
The medical examiner determined that Terri's cause of death was blunt force trauma.
Terri had also been the victim of a violent sexual assault. And at that point, what conclusions could you draw about Terri's murder?
It definitely seemed like it was kind of a crime of passion, but to beat somebody repeatedly with a hammer after you have sexually assaulted them.
When detectives called Terri's fiancé to notify him about her murder, he appeared to be overwhelmed with grief. During questioning, he claimed that at the time of the homicide, he had been away on a business trip and could not have committed the crime. But detectives wondered if he was fabricating a story in order to provide himself with an alibi. As investigators dug deeper into their relationship, they wondered if an explosive argument had somehow turned deadly.
It really focused in on the fiancé.
The fiancé was obviously looked at pretty early on. It was his apartment. She had her own apartment. The only thing missing was her engagement ring.
Detectives were meticulous as they examined his whereabouts at the time of the murder. But his business records and travel documents proved he had been telling the truth.
Based on reports, it did show that, he was at work and he was excluded for several other reasons.
He had been over 100 miles away from the crime scene at the time of Terri's murder.
We were able to establish an alibi with him fairly quickly, and that knowing that he was out of town for work.
The shocking crime left Terri's loved ones filled with sorrow and pain. No one could think of anyone who would have wanted to harm the sweet and vivacious college student.
Talking to the family, Terri was a big, kind of bubbly person. She was a student at UTA. She was very, very well loved and respected by her classmates, her community, her family. Her fiance obviously loved her very much, and she loved him.
Investigators focused in on creating a timeline for her last known steps.
Terri visited several stores not too far from the apartment complex. Those stores included a clothing and a grocery store. And that's when she went back to her fiance's apartment and started preparing a meal and a cake.
Her fiance was supposed to come home that night from being out of town, and she was just going back and trying to get a surprise together for him when she was unfortunately brutally murdered.
Investigators took a close look at the evidence left at the scene and believed the cigarette could be a critical clue. Was Terri a smoker?
Based on the initial interviews that we had with friends, family, witnesses, people that knew Terri and her fiance, we knew that they did not smoke, and they really didn't kind of put themselves around that.
Detectives immediately fanned out to expand their investigation.
They immediately went door to door, talking to everyone, identifying everyone, running different types of criminal history for sex offenders in the area. Started contacting them and interviewing them to the point where there was hundreds of possible suspects they had on their list.
For police, one thing was certain. At any moment, Terri's killer could strike again.
The crime of this magnitude, of this much brutality, we just knew that this guy would have had to have done this again, somewhere else.
So what words would you use to describe Terry's killer?
I mean, I'd use the word monster. Again, you have to just not care about anyone and have a lot of demons to want to do that to another person.
And a string of other violent sexual assaults rocked the community to its core.
There was a lot of crimes in the area of young women like Terri that was sexually assaulted.
So how frightened were the people who lived in the community?
It was very alarming to the point it launched a task force of over 35 different detectives from various agencies in Tarrant County.
Law enforcement investigated every clue left at the scene to get the killer off the street.
They immediately put out to several pawn shops regarding the ring that was stolen. They went to shoe stores and just tried on hundreds of shoes and tried to find the shoe.
And when DNA came on the horizon, forensic experts analyzed the most promising evidence.
We used a single cigarette butt to create a criminal profile for the unknown suspect DNA that was found at the crime scene.
Once they had the killer's DNA profile, it was immediately entered into CODIS. So when the profile was entered into the National DNA Database, did it come up with a match?
Unfortunately, the results were negative. There was no CODIS hit that has ever came out.
The setback was incredibly frustrating.
And so it was pretty heartbreaking that we just didn't have that ability to solve this, quickly, especially with crimes like this, where it appears that, this guy's gonna do this again based on just how horrific this was.
But authorities refused to give up.
It really makes it personal, and we give it everything we have to solve these cases.
Lots of sleepless hours working on this case and continued for years.
I mean, just thousands of hours were put into this case to try to find, the killer and get justice for the family. They really left no stone unturned.
Law enforcement needed to find the answer to a critical question.
Is there any new technology that's out there that we would be able to solve this?
And that answer would shift a stalled investigation into overdrive.
The cigarette butt gave us the most promising DNA lead.
Once we entered that into a database that gave us matches, so that really made the alarms and buzzers start going off.
Detectives investigating Terri McAdams' vicious murder promised her family they would never give up.
I assured them that we were not going to stop. Just because your case goes cold, we're not stopping. I really felt like we could get this one solved.
Now armed with new and cutting-edge advancements in DNA technology, detectives focused in on the evidence.
We knew the cigarette butt was the killer because it matched the sexual assault kit, and also Terri nor her fiance were smokers.
The cigarette butt gave us the most promising DNA lead, and we took that and ran with it.
With the advent of forensic genetic genealogy, investigators knew it was the tool they needed to blow the investigation wide open.
And for this case, we had that single cigarette butt. Once we entered that into a database that gave us matches, we were able to identify those matches, build family trees, and connect them to each other.
It was an intense and arduous process.
My team, I'm telling you, probably works 22 hours a day when we're on a case like this, especially when we get a good lead and a headway like we did in this case.
And their determination paid off when they zeroed in on a name.
They were able to confirm that the suspect DNA found at the homicide of Terri McAdams belonged to Bernard Sharp.
As detectives dug into his background, they were convinced they were on the right track.
We immediately started focusing in on Bernard Sharp, and that was based on his criminal history. That was based on his wife living 4.5 miles away from where Terri was killed.
It was without a shadow of a doubt. We knew this was our guy. The lab reports, DNA doesn't lie. People do. And we 100% knew this was our killer, and we're glad to bring this information to the family.
Detectives believed they would finally be able to give Terry's devastated family the answers they so desperately deserved. But as police continued digging into Bernard Sharp's criminal history, they learned 9 months after Terry's homicide, he had killed himself after gunning down his wife and 2 others. The details of the crime were eerily similar to Terri McAdams' murder.
And he snuck into a sliding glass rear window through his wife's home. That's when he opened fire, shooting his wife, killing her, opening fire on his wife's family friend and killing her, and shooting his wife's cousin in the chest, then lighting a cigarette until he smoked it down to the cigarette butt. Same thing that happens in Terry's house. And lastly, he laid down next to his wife and shot himself in the head.
Detectives believe on the day of Terry's murder, Bernard Sharp had targeted the 22-year-old college student and had waited for his opportunity to strike. So, based on everything that you now know about the crime, how would you describe Terry's last moments alive?
My heart breaks for her. My heart breaks for her family. I can only imagine what she was going through and the horror that she had to endure, knowing that she was going to die. You know, he had broken into her house. She had no clue who she was from what we know. My heart breaks for her and the pain that she had to have been going through.
Investigators gathered Terry's family to reveal they had found the identity of her killer. What was that moment like when you told Terry's family the news?
Emotions were very high in the room. It was a very somber occasion, but also a very joyous occasion. You could see the pain in the family's face, but also the relief and joy that they now at least have a name to the face of who took their sister away from them. It meant everything to me. It showed me that what we were doing, all that hard work, all those late nights, were for a reason.
I was so happy that I was able to deliver on that promise, that we did not stop, and that we were able to find justice for Terry.
After closing Terri McAdams' investigation, detectives examined every cold case that had been committed in the area, looking to connect Bernard Sharp to the crimes. But so far, law enforcement has been unable to link him to any other attack. And now, it's time for today's Safety Spotlight. In this case, the murderer was able to gain access to his victims through their sliding glass doors. These doors are often considered inviting targets for criminals because their large glass windows are easy to break, and they usually have an inadequate lock. To help reinforce them, consider installing a deadbolt lock, a security bar for the track, or shatterproof glass. And you may also want to install a home security system with sensors to alert you and law enforcement when doors have been compromised. That way, if danger arises, you can have peace of mind that police are on their way. I'm Nancy O'Dell. For all of us here at Crime Exposé, please join us next time and stay safe.